All right, welcome back to the channel. Sugar Ray Leonard, man. Sugar Ray Leonard got something to say about Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. and how they just need to make the fight, and how when it was his generation, people just made the fights. They didn't worry about money. Man, please. Let's talk about Ray Leonard being more full of it than the next dude in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Sugar Ray Leonard was interviewed by Steve Kim. I have no respect for Steve Kim whatsoever. I'd put him in the boat with Paulie Malignaggi and the rest of these dudes. Anyway, Paulie Malignaggi, Steve Kim, who somehow has a job with ESPN, despite his many questionable statements he's made about black people in America. Somehow ESPN still gives him a job and keeps him working. He interviews somebody else that is suspect, and that is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, before I get into that though, I want to thank you for coming to the video. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you to everybody that supports on the Patreon. There is a video coming out today. You will see it. And also thank you to everybody that supports in the channel membership and who supports in the live streams that we do Monday through Friday. Let's get into this. Okay, so Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford are the two top welterweights in the world. And it's a fight that, by the way, is between a Fox fighter, a fighter that fights on Fox or the PBC, and somebody that fights for ESPN. Now, ESPN is the news organization or the sports channel that wrote this article or published this article, right? So there's clearly the ESPN thing to it. Now, what does he say? Steve Kim asked him, I suppose Steve Kim asked him, somebody asked him, you know, what do you think about Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford and their fight? And so the gist of what Ray Leonard says was that when he was young, he never really thought about the money that he was going to make in a fight. He just took the fight. And, you know, maybe a couple instances he was worried, like with Tommy Hearns, or I can't remember who he said later on. It was like, oh, Tommy Hearns and maybe Hagler. He was worried about how much money he made versus how much money they made. And that was the only times that he was really ever interested in it. And now times have changed and boxing have changed. These fighters have changed. They're more business minded, all of that, right? Now, if you were not around in the 1980s, you might actually believe that nonsense. If you don't understand what boxing was like in the 1980s versus what it's like now, you might actually believe that nonsense. But let's go through the nonsense and debunk the nonsense. I can't stand that word. People keep using it and I've got to use it. It's in my, but anyway, let me debunk this nonsense. First and foremost, Ray Leonard ain't got nothing to talk about, dude, because when Ray Leonard said he just makes the fights, he wasn't interested just about how much money. Well, then, okay, so it wasn't money why you didn't fight Aaron Pryor? That wasn't money? What was it that prevented you from fighting Aaron Pryor? And what was it before your 2.5-year layoff that made you get on a stage with Marvelous Marvin Hagler acting as if it was going to be an announcement for a fight and you to turn around him and tell him you're retiring? No, dude, that was you just being a jerk, okay? So maybe it wasn't the money, it was just you being a jerk. But for the dude to act like, you know, like he ain't capable of complaining about money or trying to one-up fighters or acting like he's the A-side type of attitude, man, get out of here. But let's look at it a different way too. If you actually look at the career of Ray Leonard, you'll notice something. The majority of Ray Leonard's career, of the fights he had, the significant fights took place in a 2-year time frame, right? From like 1980 to maybe 1984. Before whatever it was, the 2 years he had the fight with Hagler. He had one fight in 2 years, which was Howard, And before that, before he injured his retina, detached retina, he fought Wilfred Benitez to win the welterweight title. He fought a guy moving up in weight in Roberto Duran, and he fought Tommy Hearns. Those are the three fights that he had, right? Now, how many belts were there? How many belts were there when Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting? That's a quiz. How many champions were there? 2. There was only 2. So if Roberto Duran wanted to move up from 135 pounds to 147 pounds, he only had 1 or 2 guys to fight. It's not a scenario like it is like with Terence Crawford, right? And this is no disrespect to Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford moved up to fight in the welterweight division. At the time that he fought, there were 2 other champions and 3 other belts. 2 other champions and 3 other belts. So you could have a scenario like Manny Pacquiao, right? Manny Pacquiao wants to be unified champion. If he wanted to be unified champion in an era where there was only 2 belts, he would have had to fight either. He wouldn't have had to pick. He couldn't have picked. Oh, am I going to fight Keith Thurman? Am I going to fight Terence Crawford? Or am I going to fight Errol Spence Jr.? Oh, well, Keith Thurman just looked like he lost against Josecito Lopez, so I'll come in, so I'll fight, so he gets to pick Keith Thurman. 1982, there was no other way around it, dude. If you were not a champion of one of the 2 belts that were significant at the time, that was the WBC and the WBA. Yes, the IBF was around and the WBO was around, but they were not major championship belts. Matter of fact, the WBO really never was respected as a major championship belt until the 90s. And I think it's the late 90s, maybe later than that, maybe the early 2000s. So there's just a lot more choice for these guys to go around. And also promotional companies. When he was fighting, there was only two promotional companies, 2 major promotional companies. There was Top Rank and Don King Promotions. That's it. So not only did you have all of the fighters really only with 2 promoters, you had all of the fighters between those 2 promoters fighting for 2 belts. Versus now, where you have Golden Boy Promotions, you have the PBC, you have Top Rank, you have Matchroom. Those are the major 4 promotional companies. So now in the year 2020, you've got 4 belts per division and 4 promotional outfits. So now you have championship commissions, you have sanctioning bodies that are completely connected to promotional outfits. You can just look at the WBO and see who is the WBO champion. The WBO champion, if you're gonna throw a dart at it, you better throw a dart. You're gonna throw a dart at the board, boop, you're gonna wind up hitting Top Rank. Because there's only 2 choices on the board. It's Top Rank and it's Golden Boy. How many PBC WBO champions are there? If there are any PBC WBO champions, it just doesn't work like that. There's a few now the WBC deals with everybody, the WBA deals with everybody, the IBF deals with everybody for the most part. But you see the way that boxing goes now, you'll see whole weight classes tied up by one promotional outfit to the exclusion of the other promotional outfits. Look at look at what goes on in the welterweight division, right? The welterweight division is 3 of the champions of the PBC. And you've got Keith Thurman saying, well, man, why would I fight Terence Crawford? I've got 2 guys in the house that I can fight where I can make just as much money. And it's a lot easier fight to make because we have the same manager and the promoter. So you have pretty much an in-house type of scenario with the PBC at 147. you have with an odd man out, Terence Crawford, who is going to have difficulty making the fight because these guys, because they have promoters that don't work together. You can look at the lightweight division and see what happened with the lightweight division. The lightweight division is booked up. Lightweight and junior middleweight are both locked up by Top Rank. And as somebody that is paying attention to boxing every day and am pretty accurate about the fights that will and will not be made, dude, when you see things like a Devin Haney down at 135 pounds, dude, Teofimo Lopez ain't fighting Devin Haney. He's gonna fight Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko is gonna fight Teofimo Lopez. You have Vasily Lomachenko just straight pulling, and the sanctioning bodies doing things like franchise belts. The WBC and the WBA didn't have some franchise belt that prevented you from having a legitimate contender. Some of these really great fights that took place in the 1980s were because people were mandated to fight them. So they just turned the whole mandated thing, and Bob Arum as being one of the big proponents of that, and just turned the idea that somebody was a mandatory because they were no good. Right? Because you're a mandatory means you're no good. Dude, that's not how it used to be. The guy that was the mandatory was and should be the guy that can't climb the rankings. This is the number one guy. And remember, the number one guy in the 1970s, 60s, 70s, and 80s is different with just two sanctioning bodies. Because all of the fighters, the top fighters, have to be ranked by 1 or 2. Now, when you have 4, now you have 4 sanctioning bodies. Now you have contenders spread all throughout 4 different. There's now, of the top 10, now there's 40 potential top 10 fighters instead of 20. So the top level guys can say, hey man, I'm gonna take the easy route. I'm not gonna fight Luis Ortiz. Take, for example, Anthony Joshua. That wasn't a money thing that prevented that guy from fighting. It was a difficulty of the opponent, the southpaw stance of the opponent, and then the availability of somebody else to fight that was easier to fight and he could earn more money. And why is that? Because of what the sanctioning bodies are doing. It's not related to just what the fighters are doing. So to put on the head of the fighters, the problem with boxing is the fighters are just they're just too much focused on the money. No, dude. The promoters are focused on the money too. The networks are focused on the money. The sanctioning bodies are focused on the money. And it's the combination of all these things that make it difficult for these fights to happen. But Sugar Ray Leonard, of all people, shouldn't be talking about that because he played played a bunch of games. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace. All right, welcome back to the channel. Deontay Wilder may have to pull out of the Tyson Fury fight. So says Eddie Hearn, because he's got a feeling in his stomach. The feeling is that he's hoping for the downfall of Deontay Wilder, and he ain't never been shy about admitting it, and it's the same deal it is now. But we'll talk. I got to do that one again. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Deontay Wilder may be forced to pull out of the Tyson Fury fight. So says Eddie Hearn. Let's talk about that and what it means for Eddie Hearn, Deontay Wilder, Dillian Whyte in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. So Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte are out there about Deontay Wilder again. And yes, I'm going to make a video about it because, hey man, it's one of the more intriguing conversations in the sport of boxing right now, the heavyweight division. Not as good as it could be, but good enough for me. Good enough for me at the time. I'll take it during this break from boxing. But so Eddie Hearn says that he believes that Deontay Wilder may be forced to pull out of that fight. Now, what could be the reasons why he could be forced to be pulled out of the fight? Well, I'm not making this video.